Dear friends, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today we will sing our songs, tell our stories, with or without words, from the San Francisco Bay Area, Belgrade, Istanbul, and Aegean, with the possibilities and limitations of the technology. We know that you're also in front of your screens in very different time zones. Welcome. As the Halka Art Resonance Ensemble, we are developing and sharing collection of short pieces that have been initiated by Artship Initiatives in San Francisco in the late 1980s. In 2012, this performance genre was brought to Istanbul when Slobodan Dampic became a close collaborator of the Halka Art project-Istanbul. Since then, the two initiatives, together with different and recurring performers, have been presenting performances in Istanbul and San Francisco and on Zoom since the COVID pandemic. Ensemble members present original or reconstructed narratives, original or traditional music pieces, and short movement pieces inspired by different cultural traditions. Let's start to share.
On the threshold.
Right, there you go.
Grandfather's carpet bag.
I inherited a carpet bag from a grandfather. Not only was he not my grandfather, but also he did not have any grandchildren, but he was a grandfather indeed. Moreover, I inherited from him a story yet to be told. It was a story about senses. That was the only thing I knew. From him, I inherited some sort of skill to sharpen, or rather to refine, the senses. I put everything I inherited from him into a carpet bag, and thus came a story. We learn to use our five senses when we are mere infants. Perhaps it's not even learned at all, but rather an instinct inherited from humanity itself. Much like how I inherited that peculiar gift from a grandfather who wasn't even mine. We flee from foul odors and shy away from bitter tastes, become disturbed by noise, and turn our heads from intense light But when do we truly learn to use them, to listen to these senses that enable us to form a bond with life itself? This was the question folded within that carpet bag, wrapped in layers of other people's memories, waiting to be unraveled. He was tucked in bed. He couldn't move his feet or his arms. Then he started walking. He started touching. He started putting things in his mouth. He felt his mother's embrace, sensed her smell, and tasted her milk. He coughed, he sneezed, he laughed, he cried. And when he was old enough to wait for his father's return from the marketplace, he saw him bringing home a pot. And in it, there was a beautiful flower, a purple one. It was not a color he had seen before. His house was dimly lit. It was dark, only illuminated by candles. And the flower felt like a light source that was not of warm but cool colors. This was the first time he realized that the world had more colors to it, and he was yet to discover them. There came a time when the purple flower withered and died. His mother collected its delicate petals and cast them into the fire, releasing a beautiful fragrance. He wept at the loss of the flower and reached toward the flames to rescue it. And he discovered that fire possessed a frightening power to harm. His hand burned with an unfamiliar sensation, a pain he had never before encountered. Sensing that his son loved the purple flower, his father brought another purple flower from the market next day. Many days later, as he was watching from his window, he witnessed small white spheres falling down from the sky. When he asked about them, his mother said these were snowflakes. Soon, there was snow everywhere, covering the streets. He went outside without gloves to play with his friends and was having so much fun that he didn't notice that his fingers were getting cold and painful. Then he realized something. This sensation he felt in his fingertips was similar but also unfamiliar to what he had felt when reaching for the burning petals. He was surprised that elements so fundamentally opposed, fire with its intense heat and snow with its biting cold, could both hurt his hand in the same way. But cold has other consequences too. The following week, there were no children's noises in the streets. All the kids fell ill with a strong flu. This was the first time that he couldn't smell the purple flower. His mother made him his favorite soup, and as he recuperated, he ate the soup every day. But he realized that the soup tasted different, with less flavor, less joy. But he was a sturdy kid. He got over the illness in no time, and he asked his mother to reheat the remaining soup for him because he wanted to give it a try. As the smell from the soup filled the kitchen, he went to the purple flower, leaned over it, and saw that he was able to smell its beautiful fragrance. Back in the kitchen, when he ate the soup, he then realized he could smell the taste and taste the smell. One memory that remained with him was his mother's lullabies. Years later, while apprenticed to a lumberjack in his early youth, he was startled to hear that same voice singing in the street. But it was not possible as his mother had already died. But somehow it was. He followed the singing, guided not merely by sound, but by an instinct more profound. He realized then that his ears were connected directly to his art. At the source of his voice, there stands a beautiful young girl around his age, washing clothes by the creek. He listened to her for some time until she realized that there was someone listening to her. And in a rather comfortable fashion, she turned her head slowly to look into his eyes. He smiled first, and then she smiled. In that moment of mutual recognition, and without a single word spoken, they simply knew. The carpetbag. It called for a story of a merchant. And these were some instances from his infancy, childhood, and youth. Don't we all have fleeting moments like this? Do you think, do we inherit them as well?
Sheep missing its shepherd.
In traditional culture of my people, there is a circle of songs that tells about a lunar eclipse. It means the moment when the earth throws a shadow on the moon and when the moon is not visible from the earth. And this situation is personalized in the contents of the songs through the picture of a shepherd who fell asleep. This kind of songs could be sung during the village gatherings during the summer, during the nights, but they also could be sung as lullabies. And the story about the shepherd is like this. The sky is ornamented by stars, and the field is ornamented by sheep. In the sky, above stars, there is no main star, and there is no moon. And in the field, there is no shepherd. In fact, there is one lad, young lad, but he fell asleep. His name is Radoje. And his sister, Jelica, tries to wake him up. And she says, wake up, stand up, Radoje. Your flock has gone behind the hill. But he says, let them go, my sister, let them go. I cannot stand up. The witches ate me. The witches ate my heart. So this content can be found on a wide territory, geographic territory areas in the Balkans, but there are many melodic variants on which it can be sung. And one of the variants from the big Morava River Valley goes like this. Kičeno nebo zvezdama, zvezdole dano, oj nebo zvezdama. I ravno polje ovcama, zvezdole dano, oj polje ovcama. Zvezdama nema danice, zvezdole dano. Oj, nema danice. Ovcama nema čobana, zvezdole dano. Oj, nema čobana. Sem jedno dete radoje, zvezdole dano. Oj, dete radoje.
Eagle's Path.
Murat moved with his parents to their new house. In their new house, they got a big garden. Murat was really lucky. So he could discover new things in nature, and all day long he can play in the garden. When his mother was cooking or doing house stuff, always he was in the garden. And again, he was playing in the garden, and his mother was cooking. But this day, he saw an eagle. An eagle was flying over Murat's head and making circles, and then flying a specific direction, and then coming back, and again making circles over Murat's head, and then again flying a specific direction. So Murat believed that eagle wants to show him something, and he decided to follow the eagle. But he has to leave the garden. He checked his mother. She was cooking and not looking to Murat. So he thought, maybe in 5 minutes I can come back. He jumped over the fences and started follow the eagle. He followed, and then the eagle landed in front of a cave entrance. And then Murat saw that cave entrance, and at that moment the eagle flew away. So Murat decided to enter the cave because he thought that the eagle wants to show him something, and maybe it is in that cave, maybe a treasure, maybe something else. He entered the cave. When his eyes get used to the darkness, he looked the walls of the cave. Then he started seeing some signs on the walls. And then all the signs, all the shapes morphed into sound. And Murat started hearing waves. And then the waves morphed into the sound of an ocean. And then the sound under the sea. So everything became darkness. He opened his eyes. He thought he was looking to the Milky Way galaxy, because around him there was thousands and thousands of lights, maybe stars, in every color. Then he understood that they are not lights, they were jellyfishes. Hundreds of thousands of jellyfishes in every color. Some were blue, some were yellow, some had different colors together, and some had maybe 5 colors together. And they were flowing somewhere together, like a river under the sea. And Murat decided to follow that jellyfishes. After a while, he saw that every jellyfish is coming in front of a well. He thought, a well under the sea. This is really strange. And the old jellyfishes were looking into the well, and then they are moving forward. Murat's turn came. He looked to the well, and in 1 second he saw himself. He was a jellyfish too. And he has a blue and green lights. But in the well, he saw something else. He saw a young man, and then that young man image morphed a dog, then that image morphed to a beautiful house, and then image morphed to a tree. Murat didn't understand what he saw in the well. He decided to follow the other jellyfishes. He thought that he was dreaming. And after a while, he saw a second well. But this time, every jellyfish was catching bubbles which were coming from that well. And then when they catch the bubbles with their oral arms, they were eating them. When Murat's turn came, Murat catched one bubble. He thought that he remembered something. Then catch another one, ate it, and he remembered something else. Again and again. Then something came and pushed Murat forward. He looked his behind and he saw it was a giant jellyfish with giant oral arms, and it was herding the other jellyfishes. So Murat continued his way with the other jellyfishes. But he thought he remembered something, but something that he never lived. It wasn't his memory. After a while, he saw where the road ended. All the jellyfishes coming in front of a giant mirror. And then they were entering the mirror and they were disappearing. So before Murat's turn came, one jellyfish came in front of that giant mirror and an image appeared. A tree under a purple sky, but a metallic bar. And then jellyfish entered the mirror and the image disappeared. Another jellyfish came in front of that giant mirror and a young man image appeared. A young man like from fairy tales. And then again, the jellyfish entered the mirror and the image disappeared. Another jellyfish came into the mirror, front to the mirror, and a beautiful horse image appeared. But it had 6 legs. Murat thought, what a strange dream it is. And again, that jellyfish entered the mirror and the image disappeared. When Murat's turn came, an image appeared. It was an image of Murat. He was lying on the floor in that cave. And on that moment, that giant jellyfish came and pushed Murat into the image, into the mirror. Murat woke in that cave and he thought he heard some wing sounds. And then remembered he has to go back to his home. And he started running. On the way, he started forgetting. And when he come back to his garden, He already forgot many things he saw in that cave. When he jumped over the fences, his Murat came out from the door and yelled to Murat, "Where are you? Since 5 minutes I was calling to you." He rushed and he entered the house and forgot everything what he saw in that cave. After many years, he remembered just one thing. When he was a young boy, an eagle came and made circles over his head. It then flew away.
The design.
A tinsmith was unjustly accused and convicted for a crime, a terrible crime, that he did not commit. He was given a life sentence in a small village jail. Now, he was very sad to spend the rest of his life, so he thought, in this jail. But he did the best he could and made the most of his experience. He befriended the guards, telling stories and sharing his ideas, and they warmed up to the tinsmith. He had the evenings to himself in the jail because the guards were confident that they could leave for the night, because the locks for this jail were made by a renowned locksmith in a nearby town, and the locks were said to be unpickable, that you could only open them if you had the key. A year passed, and the tinsmith's wife was very sad for her husband because she was not allowed into the jail. But one morning, as the guards were coming to work, she approached them with a carpet, a small carpet, and she gave it to the guards and told them that she had made this prayer rug for her husband, the tinsmith. Could they please give it to him so that he could do his prayers 5 times a day on this rug that she had handmade for him? One of the guards unfurled the rug and saw it was covered with beautiful designs. And he agreed. He promised that he would give it to the tinsmith. Inside, when the carpet was handed through the bars, the tinsmith took it, and tears came to his eyes. He could smell his wife's perfume. When he unfurled the carpet, he could see the love that she stitched into it with every knot with her hands. And right away, he began religiously doing his prayers 5 times a day, kneeling to the carpet. Many months passed. And one day, as one of the guards brought in a tin box that was barely holding together, maybe to hold his lunch, the tinsmith said, "You know, I'll bet that you guards are not paid adequately for the work that you do, and I'm quite skilled with working with metals. That broken box there, if you were to give it to me, I could fashion it into some kind of toy, and you might get a few pennies for it, selling it to the children on the street. Shall I give it a try?" Well, the guards were bemused to hear this, so they gave him the broken box, and with his strong fingers, he bent and turned it and took off a panel, and before long had transformed it into a simple, kind of crude-looking toy. It was a bird in flight. The guards were quite impressed what he was able to do with this sheet of tin, and one of the guards did take it after work into the streets, and he did sell it to a child for a few pennies. Well, the guards came back the next day with some more pieces of scrap tin and see what he could do with it. And He tried his best, but if he had a few tools, he would be able to do much finer work. So they let him borrow some tin snips that he could work the tin and make beautiful birds and other animals. And the guards sold them to the children, who began to collect such tin toys and paid pennies for them. And the guards were happy, and the tinsmith was pleased to be able to help the community and do a little work. Then, months later, one morning, the guards came to the jail and the tinsmith was gone. The door to his cell was open, and the skylight, too, was open. He had escaped. In the village, the tinsmith was nowhere to be found, nor was his wife. They had flown the coop. Several months after that, not having found the tinsmith, they did find the real culprit for the crimes. And so it was agreed there would no longer be a need to look for the tinsmith, for he was innocent. A few years after that, the oldest of the guards retired, and he went on a trip, a tour of the country. And in a town rather far away, he was in a tavern, and he saw the tinsmith and his wife. Now, this was an old friend of his, he felt, and so he walked up to the tinsmith and he said, "You know, it's so great to see you again. You remember me, the guard in the jail. And we certainly loved you and enjoyed. We look forward to coming to work, knowing that you were there. I'm so pleased that you are innocent." And that was proven. But you must tell me, how did you escape? We knew it had something to do with the bits of metal that we gave you, I'm sure, but those locks were said to be unpickable. They were the best locks in the county. How did you manage the escape? The tinsmith looked to his wife and he said, "Really, it was my clever wife who allowed for me to escape. You see, dear, why don't you tell him?" The wife turned to the retired guard and said, "My heart longed so much for my husband. I knew he was innocent because he was with me during the time the crime was committed. And when I thought of him in that cell and that I was unable to see him, I made a trip and visited the renowned locksmith who had made the locks for the jail. And I told him of my husband's plight, and I begged his case. The locksmith was wise, and he listened closely. He saw the pain in my heart, and he empathized. And so he drew for me the plan of the locks in the jail. And then I took that plan and I wove his prayer rug. And right at the place where he lowered his head to the rug, that is where I wove the design of the locks. The tinsmith said, "There I was doing my prayers. And then one day I realized it was there in front of my eyes all along. With her help, I was able to escape."
Hafiz's wisdom. The young Yusuf was only about 8 years old, but he had so much on his mind. That evening was the longest night of the year. Yusuf sat in the living room by himself, near a window. There was a certain sadness with Yusuf, but a boy at 8 didn't know what the sadness was. It was more like something is missing. Like, yeah, there is something I want, but I'm not sure what it is exactly. What can we call it? I don't know. But something didn't feel right. Maybe it was the circumstances in the world. Maybe it was just what was happening. He was picking up on something. Or he just didn't feel like there was something quite right. He had a question, but he couldn't necessarily verbalize the question. He didn't even know where to start. Would anyone even understand this feeling if he were to ask someone? Yes, it was a sadness, but also it was a fundamental missing of something. Could he turn to the adults? Well, they were in the other room, in the dining room, having pomegranate seeds, walnuts, pistachios, almonds, even delicious rice with some lamb, festive occasion, joking, even playing cards. Happy, they were laughing. But to Yusuf, it didn't quite make sense. There was still something wrong. Something was missing. So he turned over and started to contemplate, as an 8-year-old would, just thinking, maybe worrying. He was satisfied, the food was great, the people are there, but something else was not. As he was looking out of the window, he heard some footsteps, and a man had come up the stairs and down inside the hallway. He was not part of the family, but as he got closer, he noticed he had a white beard and long black hair. And he remembered, this is a neighbor. He lives right down the street. But nobody liked to talk to him. He was a bit peculiar, an odd man. He remembers when the kids were playing soccer on the asphalt with small goal posts and a plastic ball, couple of layers to make it heavy. That was a very popular game to play in Iran amongst the young children. And sometimes the ball would go over the goalpost and Yusuf would run to the end of the street because he was so curious. Who is this man? What is he doing? He lived in a very small cottage surrounded by books. One time he caught a glance of him sitting on his porch, having a small tobacco pipe and reading a book. This cottage was just completely filled to the rim. Books everywhere. And he got closer to Yusuf. He was still wondering, how did he get in? How does he know my family? He simply handed Yusuf a book. He said to him, "Here, take this. Book of Hafez." Yusuf opened it, started to look inside. Yes, Hafez. But Hafez is so difficult for anybody to read. How can an 8-year-old actually read Hafez? But the man told him, if you have any questions, anything at all, ask and randomly open. But don't ask with your head. Ask with your heart. And so Yusuf decided to do it. And just that time, the man disappeared. So Yusuf closed his eye, both his eyes, and randomly picked a page, just as they would do on Yalda, the longest night of the year. To his surprise, the poem actually started with his name. یوسف گم گشته باز آید به کنعان غم مخور کلبه احزان شود روزی گلستان غم مخور این دل غم دیده حالش به شود بد مکن وین سر شوریده باز آید به آسمان غم مخور گر بهار عمر باشد باز بر تخت چمن چتر گل در سر کشی ای مرغ خوشخوان غم مخور هان مشو نومید چون واقف نهی از سیر غیب باشد اندر پرده بازیهای پنهان غم مخور. Lost Joseph returns to Canaan. Don't grieve. The house of sorrows will become a garden. Don't grieve. O grieving heart, you will mend. Don't despair. The frenzied mind will return to calmness. Don't grieve. When the spring of life sets in again in the meadows, a crown of flowers you will bear. Singing bird, don't grieve. In these turbulent times, do not move, that cannot seem to move with our will today. The spheres of time are not constant. Don't grieve. Don't lose hope, for we cannot perceive the unseen, because behind curtains there are hidden scenes at play. So don't grieve. یوسف گم گشته یوسف گم گشته باز آید بکن یوسف گم گشته باز آید به کنعان غم مخور ای دل غم دیده حالت به شود دل بد مکن وین سر شوریده باز آید با آسمان غم مخور غم مخور. Memory of a ritual. not remembered, not forgotten.
This song is one of the finest examples of classical Turkish music. Composer and violinist Tatyos Eskerciyan, or known as Tatyos Efendi in the musical circles, composed it in 1913 in his hometown of Istanbul, where he was a celebrated musician. The same year, he died. His close friend, writer Ahmet Rasim, once said that the lyrics of the song was like a perfect summary of Tatyos Efendi's own life. The lyrics say, "I'm in a deep sorrow and I have no cure. I'm alone, without a family, without a home. Agony is my destiny. I mourn and I can't find peace." Yusuf heard this song for the first time a few years after it was composed, when he came with his family to Bursa, like many other immigrants at the time from the Balkans who came to Anatolia. But only when he grew older that he could understand what this song might mean to his father, who loved it so much and who used to listen to it, especially in the later stages of his life after the migration. Yusuf had some memories of his early childhood in the Balkans. He distinctly remembered the Rhodope Mountains, which seemed even bigger, more spectacular to a small boy like him. He remembered the green valleys with white asphodels surrounding the mountains. He remembered their farmhouse, the house that he was born in and raised until age 9. He also remembered the animals they had. They had a cow, a donkey, and a dozen chickens. Change came slowly. First, people in their community began to lose their jobs as civil servants. Then their schools were closed. Later on, the land that belonged to the members of their community began to be confiscated and to be redistributed to other people, new people who came from different places. So it was a total shock for this country boy to be torn away from this landscape he belonged to and to be sent away, in a way, for the things that the grown-ups do and decide. The wars that was known as the Balkan Wars just before the First World War was the last straw. They had no other chance than to leave for Anatolia in order to survive, leaving everything they owned behind themselves. Houses were gone, Lands were gone, animals were gone, the life they knew as it was, and the homeland they knew was lost forever. 2 years later, they were resettled in Bursa, like a large portion of the people who were expelled from the region they came from. And then that year, his father died. His mother believed that he died of grief. And mother and son, who had no immediate family in Bursa, had a distant cousin in Istanbul. Aunt Meryem was an old widow. She was also a wise woman. She genuinely invited them to come live with her in Istanbul. The place they came was called Kadıköy, the ancient city of Halkidon in ancient Greek. Kadıköy was also built by a group of immigrants, like many other places around the world. In prehistoric times, a colony from Megara, from the north of today's Greece, came here and built the city on the Aegean side of the Bosphorus, even before the Byzantium was built on the other side, European side of the city. When Yusuf came to Kadıköy, Kadıköy was already a very cosmopolitan area for centuries, with a population made up of Turks, Greeks, Armenians, Levantines, Jews, and with a small number of English and German families. Kadıköy Bazaar was filled with the shops and the workshops of all these communities. Yusuf was fascinated with the vibrancy of the place and the people. And suddenly he became another 12-year-old boy who had a new school, who had new friends. Most boys whose fathers had a particular trade or craft became natural apprentices to their fathers around age 12 or 13. Others like him were placed as apprentices with local masters to learn a craft after school in the weekends. Aunt Meryem, who was at the time the matriarch of the family, after giving careful consideration, decided on the perfect master for him. It was Master Vahan, or Vahan Usta in Turkish, who was a jewelry maker. Vahan was a generous man, and he was a master of his craft, but these qualifications were not the only reason why Meryem chose him. Vahan was also a lonely man who never got married or had children of his own. He lived alone in their family house in Moda since his sister got married and moved to France. He had a workshop in the Grand Bazaar, but his real workshop was on the ground floor of this 3-story building. The Armenian community in Anatolia was well known for their mastery in stone masonry, and the house was a perfect example of it. In this house, Vahan created some of his most beautiful pieces. The ground floor was the heart of the house. It was a place of incubation for hard work and creativity, a place where he received his friends, his collaborators, and his many apprentices over the years. The front room that was facing Rushena Street was anonymously referred to as Vahan's room since he used to sleep there at night, even after he was no longer there. In this house, Vahan and Yusuf worked for more than 10 years together. Yusuf was an excellent student, and Vahan told him everything he knew about their craft. And after 10 years of working together and teaching, he decided to do something even bigger for his apprentice. After having the blessing of Yusuf's mother and Aunt Meryem, he contacted his relatives in France, and he was successful to send him to Paris to get formal education as a jewelry maker. Yusuf couldn't feel more grateful to this man who he already loved and admired so much. The next couple of decades for Yusuf was in Europe. After completing his studies, he settled in Paris and became gradually a well-known young master of his craft. During all this time, he regularly sent money home, and he never lost contact with his old master. On the contrary, he was generally asked him to come visit him in Paris and even to come live with him there from time to time whenever he wanted or he felt so. But Vahan never left his country, not even when the Second World War broke and when the economy failed. Yusuf knew that his old master was living under difficult conditions and he desperately wanted to help him, but Vahan was an honorable man who wouldn't accept any help. Until one day, something dreadful happened. In 1942, a new law was passed with the apparent aim of raising funds to be used in defense in case the country had to take part in the war, which already came to its doors. But what it really did was to change the social structure of the society and the ownership of many, many assets. Everybody had to pay a tax, which was called the wealth tax, but there was this new class of Turkish Muslim bourgeoisie who basically came from Anatolian cities to Istanbul and other major cities, and the ratio that they had to pay was at least 100 times less than that of the rest of the society. So anyone who didn't belong to this group fell into a deep poverty. They had to sell all their assets to be able to cover their debts. Some of them had to leave the country and never came back. For Yusuf, this was the Balkans of 30 years ago, with one difference. This time, he was mature enough to understand what was happening. Back then, he was helpless. He couldn't help his father in the situation they were in, but now he was determined to do anything to help his master. The best thing to do seemed to him like to buy either the house or the workshop in the Grand Bazaar from him, because he had money only to buy one of those two things. And he chose the house, obviously. The best thing was to buy it from Vahan and to let him live and work there for as long as he lived. Eventually, there would be another sale, a symbolic sale, when the time was right and the conditions were favorable in the future. And the house would go back to Vahan's family. This time, his old master didn't object. With the money that came from Yusuf and from the sale of the workshop in the Grand Bazaar, he was barely able to cover his debt. He kept living in the house in Moda for another 20 years. But the pain of what had happened never left his heart, just like Yusuf's father, who died of his grief. When Vahan died, his close circle of friends buried him in the Armenian cemetery in Kadıköy, the graveyard he shared, among others, with Tatyos Efendi, the man who created one of the saddest, yet one of the most beloved songs in classical Turkish music.
the vow.
Long time ago, in the kingdom of Vijayanagar, there was a merchant, a very wealthy merchant. He had a huge land of agriculture, hundreds and thousands of livestock and cattle, and a huge business which he used to export his dairy products and his crops to the neighboring states. He has four sons. The elder one, he was expert in dealing with different merchants and running the business. The second son, he was expert in legal matters, and also he was taking care of the fair play at work for all the employees working for them. The two younger sons, they were expert in agriculture with animals and all production. They were expert in that matter. Now, all four sons, they were adult and helping the merchant in the business. Business was growing at a very nice pace. One day, merchant fell ill. After being in the bed for 3-4 days, merchant realized that his time is near. He called all his four sons and asked them, sons, you know, this empire, all what we have collected today is behind it's a very hard work and dedication. I don't want you guys to separate ever or to divide this property or this business ever. But if ever you feel like doing that, far away from here, there's a state called Kulinagar. There live my friend. You go to him and he will help you divide the property in equal parts. It was not a big of the conversation back then. Sons, they did not discuss anymore, and the merchant passed away after a week. The son, after merchant passing away, they started working even harder, and the business was growing day and night. It was continuously growing to a very high pace. A decade passed. One day, the two younger brothers, they came back from the field. Their clothes were all dirty, all in the mud. They were all sweating all over because they were working with the employees in the garden, in the field, in the stable, and all other places with the cattle. While other two brothers, they were sitting in a courtyard, having nice tea with two other business merchants coming from other states, very nice clothes, and enjoying the evening. The younger son, he asked the other one, why we are working so hard? We are the one those who are actually doing all the work in the field every single day. We are the one those who are producing everything. Our elder brother, they're just sitting in the office or in the home, just doing the deals. I think we should be separated for them. Initially, the brother did not pay much attention, but over the time, when they discussed with their wives also, this topic grew bigger. And one fine day, both elder brothers and their wife, they went to the elder ones and they asked them that we don't want to be with you anymore. We want to be separated. Initially, the elder brothers, they tried to convince the younger ones, but there was no result out of that convincing. Meanwhile, they were discussing, the elder brother, he remembered that father mentioned something when he was on the deathbed. And that was about the uncle in the Kulinagar, whom they used to call him Chachaji. Chachaji literally means uncle in English. Because he lives too far, they arrange their horses, their food and tents and everything. After a journey of a month by horses, they reach Kulinagar. Uncle was very happy to welcome all four sons of merchant and their wives. He arranged a lavish dinner. They were sitting on a table having a very nice dinner. And uncle asked a question to everyone. I'm very happy to see all of you with me here. But I also want to know what is the purpose of your visit. The elder son explained the whole story to the uncle, Chachaji, and he told him what his father mentioned in his last days. Uncle did not take much time to understand what his friend wanted from him. He said, okay, no more discussion on this dinner table anymore. Next morning, we will meet and we will divide the property equally. Everybody went to sleep, but the other side, uncle was not able to sleep. He was trying to figure out a solution where all four brothers can stay together. He woke up early next morning, gathered everyone. He said, when you cross 7 mountains towards the east, after that, on 8th mountain, there's a temple of your clan deity. We will go there and we will do all the rituals. After that ritual, I will divide your property in equal proportion. Everybody agreed to that. While this temple was too far, they have to cross the 7 mountain. They, of course, arranged their horses, tents, and food for 7 days, 7 to 8 days. When they were about to reach a day before, uncle said, you all have to fast today. It is a ritual of the clan deity. You have to fast today, and tomorrow morning you have to do the ritual. Everybody agreed to that, and they fasted for the day. Next morning, when they were performing the ritual in the temple, the uncle came out of the temple and he found all the food in the tent. He took all the food and threw it in a crevice, in a gap of a mountain. When everybody finished their ritual, they came out and they saw that there is no food. They asked uncle what to do in this situation. Uncle suggested that all men, they go in each direction. All merchant four-son will go in each direction. Women will stay back, and uncle will stay back to safeguard the woman and all the belongings. While they're going, they need to arrange the food for everyone, those who are staying back. So the younger son, who started walking in the south direction, after crossing the mountain and the jungle, he reached a village. In the village, he saw there's two elderly farmers trying to cultivate their field. And they have two very strong bulls. Those who were connected with the plow, but it's very uncomfortable for these two farmers to control the bulls. So merchant's son goes up to the farmers and asks them, can I help you? And farmer asked, what do you need in the return? He said, I'm just looking food for few people. Farmer agreed to that. While they were arranging the food, the merchant's son, he plowed the all area of that land. He collected all the food from the farmer and he started his journey back towards the temple. While the third son, who started walking in west direction, after crossing the mountain and the river, and he reached in a place where it was extremely dry. There is no greenery, everything was dry. And he saw from far, far away that there's a group of people discussing something. He went and he asked all of them, what is the matter? Why you guys are in a group? Is there any problem? One farmer out of all the group mentioned that what the land you see now is our agriculture land. And it's been long time that we are not able to grow anything. Whatever seed we put in the ground, it doesn't grow. This land is unfertile, and this is the only source of income for our family. So merchant son, he goes and he checked the soil, and it was actually unfertile. It was not good enough to grow any crop. However, while he was checking, he saw a huge heap of dry manure in the corner. And he got an idea. He informed everybody that you should mix water with this manure and make a small lemon-sized dumpling out of this manure. Put a seed inside and then put it in the ground. You do it for 2 years and you don't have to repeat this process, and your field will be fertile again. And all your plant will come to the life. Everybody was so happy listening to this solution. And then they asked him, what you want in the return? He said, I just need food for some people. They gave him a lot of food, including bread, cheese, fruits, also 50 silver coins. He collected all the things from the farmers, and he started his journey back towards the temple. While the second son, who started walking in the north direction, after crossing the mountain and the jungle, he reached a place which was somewhat like a market. He see that a lot of people are walking in that market, and in the corner there is a bar. He goes inside a bar. Everybody is enjoying and dancing with the music and having drinks, except one. There's one person who's dressed in a very nice attire, but sad. His one hand is on the forehead and another one is holding a glass of alcohol. And he's keep on drinking. The merchant second son goes to the sad man and asks, "What is the matter? Why are you so sad?" Sad man explains that recently his father passed away, and his other three brothers and him, they divide the property in equal parts. He is the eldest one. Everything was okay. The only one thing left in the end was the cat. We were not able to divide it, so we decided that each one of us will take care of each leg of this cat. I'm the eldest. The right front leg of this cat come in my share. One day this cat was playing and got injured. I put some cotton and bandage to it, but unfortunately that leg caught fire. Cat was running from one place to another and tried to scratch the right front leg from different objects to get rid of the fire from the bandage, and then keep running into place to place, and that end up burning a lot of houses in the neighborhood. And the village council, they decided that I would have to pay all the damage whatever is being done in the neighborhood. The money I have, I can pay the damage, then I would have nothing left for me or for my family for the survival. So I don't know what to do in this situation. The merchant second son, he think for a while and he called for the village council again. He explained to the village council that cat has four legs. The right front leg belongs to this man, but other three leg belongs to other brothers. When the cat got injured and the leg caught on fire, the other three leg was responsible for the mobility of the cat. If the cat if the cat was having only fire in one leg and other three legs were not there, it will not move from one place to another. So cat run from one place to another and another houses, it's because of three leg. If those were not there, it will only burn his house. Initially, the village council did not convince with this, but after a discussion of half an hour, they understood the logic. And they said, this man is not responsible while other three brothers will pay equal amount of money to prepare the damage. The sad man was a happy man now. He was extremely happy with this solution. And then he asked the merchant son, what can I do for you? Merchant son asked, I just need food for few people. He not only gave him the food, a lot of food, but also 100 gold coins. The merchant son collected all of this and started his journey towards back to the temple. Meanwhile, the eldest one, who was walking in the east direction, after crossing the mountain, he reached a place where there were a lot of royal houses and a huge sea next to it. While he was crossing these houses, he saw the very well made house is there. And he saw a person sitting in a courtyard. The merchant first son thought it's a nice opportunity to go and ask this man for some food. So he goes up to this man and asks, can I get some food for few people? And the man looked at him and said, I'm very busy at this time solving my own problem. I cannot help you. He said, if I would help you to solve your problem, would you be able to provide me some food? They both agreed. So the merchant son asked, what is your problem? The man told the merchant son that I am the royal advisor for the king. The king got a new elephant, a big elephant in his kingdom recently. Now he wants to check my eligibility to continue in this position if I tell him the exact weight of the elephant. And I don't know how to do it. And that is my problem. Merchant first son thinks about for a while, and he asked him to arrange a huge boat. He said, you can arrange a huge boat, put it in the sea, right there. And first you mark the level of the empty boat. Then you put the elephant on the boat. Then you mark the level. Get the elephant out of the boat. Fill this boat with small pebbles and stone to the same mark as the elephant weight. And then weigh all these pebbles and stones. That's how you will have exact weight of elephant. The royal man was extremely happy with the intelligence of this person and a problem-solving skill. He not only gave him food, but also 1,000 gold coins and a beautiful white horse for him as a gift. The merchant's first son collected all his things and he started his journey back towards the temple. When all four sons reached the temple, uncle was eagerly waiting for everybody, brings out a huge white sheet and put it on the center and ask everybody to put whatever they are belonging or earning on each corner of the sheet. All four brothers, they put their belongings on the each corner of the sheet and explain how they got this, what they did to get all this food and the belongings. After listening to everybody, uncle started looking one by one to everyone and asked them, would you still like to be separated or wants to stay together? The younger brothers, they realized their mistake. They embarrassed in front of everyone and they apologized to the elder brothers and told them that they always wanted to stay together. Uncle smiled and he turned back and started his journey towards back to the Kulinagar.
The Liar.
Once upon a time, there was a young man who left his father and mother to sail to a faraway kingdom across the sea. There were no good opportunities in his place of origin, and he had heard that there was ample opportunities for a young man like him in this kingdom across the sea. So, in order to pay for his fare, he got hired on as a deckhand to pay for his journey. And so after many months of storms and rough seas, he arrived at this kingdom across the sea and he set out to find new opportunities for himself. But now that he was in this new place, he realized that his life was like a blank slate, like an unwritten book, and he didn't know anybody in this strange, large new city. So one night, he set out from his boarding house and he was thinking about this and looking through the lit up windows of all the people that he could see having dinner and talking, sharing stories, maybe even making music and singing together. He desperately yearned for a place to belong and he wished for his new opportunity or his life to begin. So in this state of mind, he stumbled across a street musician. This old wise man called him over, and the young man, his whole story spilled out of him, and he told this grandfather how his life had to begin because he didn't know where to go or what to do now that he arrived in this new strange city. And he asked, "Grandfather, won't you play me a song?" So the old man began to tune his lyre and then started playing a mournful song and with a full baritone voice began to sing. Menschenkind, warum glaubst du bloß, gerade dein Schmerz, dein Leid wären riesengroß? Ach, wünsch dir nichts, dummes Menschenkind. Wünsche sind nur schön, solang sie unerfüllbar sind. Man hat uns nicht gefragt, als wir noch kein Gesicht, ob wir leben wollten oder lieber nicht. Jetzt geh ich allein durch eine große Stadt und ich weiß nicht, ob sie mich lieb hat. Ich schaue durch die Stuben, durch Tür und Fensterglas und ich warte auf etwas. Wenn ich mir was wünschen dürfte, käm ich in Verlegenheit, was ich mir wohl wünschen würde. eine gute oder schlimme Zeit. Wenn ich mir was wünschen dürfte, möcht ich etwas glücklich sein. Aber wenn ich gar zu glücklich wär, hätt ich Heimweh nach dem Traurigsein. When grandfather finished his song, he saw tears rolling down the young man's cheeks. And he said, "This song, it was just for you. My lyre just knows what song everybody needs to hear. Every song I play is improvised." He said, "I'm an old man, and I cannot go into the villages anymore and play the songs that people need to hear. But you are a young man in search of new opportunities. Won't you go into the villages for me and play the songs that the people need to hear?" The young man said, "But grandfather, I don't play the lyre." The grandfather said, "Don't worry, come and live with me for a while. I will teach you. I will teach you everything you need to know about the lyre." So for a little while, the young man found a place to belong, and he and the old man became great friends. He learned everything there was to know about the lyre, and in his final days, the old man said to the young man, "There's one more secret I need to share with you. When you tune the lyre, let its sound and song into your heart. It will pluck your heartstrings, and you will know just what song to play for any person you meet."
Remembering the bone.
Growing up in California, my mother had a curious ritual that she did every time she prepared a chicken or a turkey. She would pull out of the bird the wishbone. It's a curious bone that only exists, as far as I know, in birds. And she would hold one leg of the wishbone out like this and then invite someone else in the family, usually the children, to come and take the other leg of the bone. The idea was that once both people are holding on to a leg, they would close their eyes and make a wish. And then, when both people had a wish, they would pull the bone apart and snap it, and whoever had the largest piece, the piece with the center on it, their wish would come true. So I have a wishbone here. Would someone like to make a wish? Ali, would you join me?
Craig, I would love to. Well, we played it a little different in Iran. It was a wager. We had to make a wager. So if you and I were at the dinner table, and I got the collarbone, got the wishbone, I would say, "Hey, Craig, you want to make a bet?" And let's say, "Hey, I'll take you to dinner, if you win and you do something for me." But it didn't matter if I got the big piece or the small piece. That was irrelevant. But we just break the bone. But at that point, we make a bond with each other to remember that anytime if I give you something or if you give me something, an object, I have to remember that we made this agreement. So if you gave me something, I would say, "Yadame." And if a few seconds go by, you would say, "Yadam tara faramush," means I remembered, you forgot. So it's really a memory game. Adults play it. Not so much children, but yeah. But I think this is played all over the region, Europe, and even India, Hitesh. Do you guys play the same?
Yes, Ali. I was actually introduced to this game when I was around 17-year-old. One of my Kashmiri friend, he invited me for a celebration of Eid. And then I saw it's a huge dastarkhan. It's a dinner table where people are eating food. And the two family member, they started playing this game. And it sounds very similar to what you explain, that the size of the bone when they break it doesn't matter, because the breaking means the game is starting now. And it is all about the bet. So they will put some amount of money or some things as a bet. The interesting part of the game I came to know was that they can play it for months, and they will they will normally play with the people, with the family, and they will try to make sure that everybody goes back to the normal life. And whenever somebody hand over something to another person, and if this person forget to say yaad hai, that's how you lose the game. So I know that, as you mentioned, Ali, that they're playing all over the world. I would like to know from Yelena how they're playing in Serbia.
Yes, Hitesh, we also know about this game, and there is a word for the wishbone. We call it in Serbian, we call it jadac. That is really similar name to these terms that you use in Iran and in India. It's interesting. And this game was introduced to us when we were children. Our father taught us about this, and it was about the wage. If you receive some object from your partner in the game that you need to say, then you need to say znam za jadac. I know about the wishbone. I'm aware of that. I try to know to get some more information from my father, how more details about the game, but he does not remember it anymore, and people of his generation either do not remember. But in our language, there is also a saying, "Znam za jadac," I know about the wishbone. When you are, when a person is aware of something that is hidden behind, of some hidden sense or intention of someone, then you know, I know, so there must be some awareness of that. And in Turkey, Ipek, how does it go?
Well, in Turkey, it's the same. The rules are the same. The important thing is in Turkey, it's that you play the game with people you frequently see. It can be your family members, your close friends, or relatives, anyone, because the game should go on, keep going. So it depends on how well the players aware all the time, so that they don't miss to say a specific word when something is handled to them. The name of the game is interestingly very similar to every language you have all said. It's in Turkish, it is lades. And the thing is, not the person who forgets or who get the object says it, but if the person forgets to say it in the next 3 seconds, that specific word, the winner says lades, so which means I win. And in order not to lose the game, you have to say aklımda, which means on my mind in Turkish. So, Craig, now I think you know what to say next time you play it with a Turkish friend. Huh?
Aklımda.
The Longest Night of 1931.
Leela was the tallest in the group, so it was very difficult for her to hide in the bushes. There were many groups, 5 people there, 10 people there, 15 people behind them, they all hiding and waiting for the night by the river at the border. The river Aras was the border between Anatolia, between Turkey and the other countries. They all the groups were exhausted. They came from very far away. They were almost 3 months on the way. They walk at nights, hide at daytimes. almost 800 kilometers from Baku. Leyla's group came to the border to pass to Turkey. It was so cold and rainy. Indeed, rain was good for them because the sound of the raindrops covered their noises. They have to be very, very quiet because there were soldiers from both sides watching the border. But there were old people coughing, children, and babies, and Leyla's brother Kerim was carrying a baby Tamella, and baby started to cry, and Leyla said, Kerim, stop him, stop her. Kerim pressed the baby's face to his chest strongly, but the soldiers heard her crying and they started to fire from both sides. There were a crossfire. They can hear the sounds of the bullets coming very close to their ears. And some of the bullets were stuck into the mud in front of them, and the mud spring like a fountain and come back to on their heads, on their eyelashes. Some old people thought that mud on their eyelashes was sleep, and some of them fell asleep there in the bushes. When the crossfire stopped, Kerim remembered that the baby in his chest, and he looked at her face with a great fright, and it was almost purple, but she was still alive. A couple of hours later, the longest night of 1931 started. It was completely dark, and Leyla wake up old people and others, and they one by one entered the water. First Kerim. He was carrying the baby still, and he was also carrying a big, heavy bundle, a blanket bundle full of clothes, many other things for their way. And when he stepped, the second step, third step, the bundle get very heavy. He couldn't carry. The fluid is strong, so he gets rid of the bundle, but he carried the baby only. After the fourth step, the water came to his chin. He couldn't breathe, and the stones under the water were very slippery. He said to Leyla, help, help, and stretched his arms to Leyla and to hand over the baby. And before receiving the baby, Leyla said, whispered, aklımda.
One step at a time.
In January 2015, it was the first time I visited Istanbul and Halka Art Resonance by the invitation of Slobodan Pajic, who asked me to come to meet the people, to meet the group, and to see what is going on within this workshop. And I was very happy to be there and to see how the things are going on. And we, in this period of time, about 5 days, how much I stopped there, I was there, I shared some songs, some stories. I attended the rehearsals for the performance, and I also took part on one of the performances with a song. And during that period, I was situated in one place in Halka residence, and the last day of my staying, I agreed with Slobodan that I would go to visit the hill on the other side of Bosphorus that could be seen from Kadıköy, with Hagia Sophia and the Blue Mosque. And he agreed, of course, but we agreed that I should come, not to stay long on this trip, because we needed to have a performance in the evening. And I was a bit afraid and a bit anxious, because Istanbul is so huge city, so big city. And the interesting thing is that it reminds of Belgrade. It has some similarities. Belgrade is on two big rivers, and Istanbul is on the sea, and the open sea, and it is about maybe 10 times bigger than Belgrade. And there are also seagulls in both cities. And it was for the first time for me to be in such a huge city alone. And that plan to go by boat from one side to the other made me a little bit, anxious. And but everything was explained to me very precisely, and I sat on the boat, and the trip was fantastic. It was a shiny, sunny day with bright blue sky and wind that was carrying the waves, and seagulls that were flying around the boat and making their cries. And everything passed well. I visited the place, the top of the hill that I wanted to see, and went back by boat again with the same feeling of safety and belonging in a way. And when I came back to Halka residence, Slobodan was there, and he asked me, how was it? And I said, excellent, very nice. And then he told me, see, I made a drawing while you were absent. And I named it Shine as if a day at a time. During these performances in Halka, one of the song I shared with the group was a wedding song from the region of Mountain Rtanj in Serbia. And it tells about the green apple tree and the falcon on its top. O jabuko zeleniko, o jabuko zeleniko, čudan li si rod rodila, čudan li si rod rodila. Na tri grane dve jabuke, na tri grane dve jabuke. A na trećoj soko sedi, a na trećoj soko sedi. Soko sedi, perja redi, soko sedi, perja redi.
A subtle invitation. on the seashore.